Does this bill actually involve cuts to veterans' benefits and care?
Well, first, thanks for having me on. And the answer is no. Democrats are lying to you. The White House is lying to you. The head of the VA is lying to you. And here's what they're doing. They're taking the debt limit bill, which has a top line cap. It's overall spending in discretionary programs. There's a cap to it. And so what Democrats are doing is they're doing something really cute here. They're forcing in an assumption that every agency is going to be equally affected. And that's never been the plan. All summer long, we've been working on a budget that would get us to fiscal year 22 caps in discretionary spending programs. And all of those models had defense getting an increase, Veterans Affairs getting a full increase to match the Biden request numbers. The White House knows this. They've been attacking our budget. The Republican Veteran Affairs Committee, they've been talking about how VA is going to be fully funded. You just mentioned Mike Boston, his quote there. So the left knows that they're lying about it. And I don't know if these members of Congress themselves are lying, if they're just being duped by the White House, or if they're just massively ignorant. Either way, they're spreading disinformation. They're lying to veterans. They're sending veterans bad information and making them concerned about getting their care. And I would argue that the framework put forward in the debt limit bill actually sets forth a path where the Veterans Affairs gets a significant increase, about 30% over fiscal year 21 enacted levels. So if Democrats voted against the debt ceiling bill, they're voting against a framework that will result in the VA getting a significant increase in funding.
Actually, under the Trump administration, there was particular focus on the Department of Veterans Affairs and veterans care and making sure that they improved it, because it had been one of those areas of the government that had become so wasteful. There were extremely long wait times. Veterans couldn't get the care they needed. There were major improvements I would hear from lots of veterans. So it sounds to me, though, that there is concerns amongst the veteran community that you're hearing, that they're believing what is being said by Democrats and in the corporate media.
Well, there are far left organizations that are just grift organizations that are lying to veterans, like Vote Vets. Even the Washington Post rated them as four Pinocchios for what they're telling veterans that this bill does. And you're right, there's a lot of things that we need to do in the VA. I'm a VA patient. I get very frustrated at wait times and needing to get like specific types of appointments set that take months to get done. There's all sorts of things we can do. But, there's also other reforms. Like if you have, a DEI officer at the VA, we're going to go after that. We're going to get rid of that. That's not going to be in the VA. It's systemic racism. We're not going to stand for it. So we're not saying that we shouldn't reform the VA, but the core benefits that benefit veterans, those are not going away. They're not getting a decrease. If anything, they're going to be plussed up with additional funding to make sure that the veterans that need those programs get those programs and get the care that they need. And the Democrats, again, they know this. They're just purposely manipulating a mathematical assumption that they themselves are making up out of thin air that doesn't exist anywhere in the bill. And again, even the Washington Post admitted that this is not actually in the bill. The Washington Post.
So let me ask you, when Democrats are opposing this bill regarding the debt ceiling, it doesn't really it doesn't do anything that I think that they would be, some things I get totally opposed to. But shouldn't they kind of support this, and it would help their president in getting this bill passed and getting the kind of budget they want, essentially?
If they actually cared about getting our debt under control and making sure that the core institutions of government remain solvent and can actually fulfill their obligations to Americans, whether that be Social Security, Medicare, the VA, DOD, yes, they should be for this. We can cut $150 billion in in discretionary spending to make sure that our fiscal house is in order and that we're on a pathway to balancing our budget in 10 years, so that all of these programs that we care about don't eventually go solvent. But at the same time, they understand that this money is being used to fuel their activist left woke ideology. It's going into all of the federal contracts that are being sent out. It's going into, DEI. It's going into anti-racism. It's being used by the State Department to export wokeness abroad into other countries that don't want anything to do with it. So in a lot of ways, they understand that their ideology is more at risk, and they're willing to sacrifice the future of the country in order to make sure that their ideology remains on track and that taxpayers are funding the activist left movement.
Well, we have definitely certainly seen that over the last 2 years. Thank you so much, Wade, and thank you for clearing this up for us. I'm hoping that any veterans who have been snowed by the narrative see this segment so that they can feel better about what's being done in this bill. Our veterans are very important, and we definitely want them taken care of, especially at a time when recruitment levels are super low. I'm sure there's not much of an incentive right now under the Democrat administration for people to go into the military, and we're actually going to talk about that a little bit next. Thank you so much, Wade, and thank you for everything you all do at Center for Renewing America.
Amen. Thanks for having me on.